Hello guys, this is Dark Fox Sage 2 and we are back with our new fanfic, which is What If Naruto Build Harem with Hinata Ino and Temari Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and please subscribe to the channel. It motivates me to upload more fanfic like these for you all. Now let's start the fanfiction. Naruto and Tenten finally arrived at the mall that was, much to Naruto's surprise, a lot bigger than he thought. Are you sure you're alright? Asked Tenten. Don't worry about it. I heal fast, and I mean ridiculously fast. Said Naruto. Oh, another bloodline thing, huh? Asked Tenten. Yeah, let's go with that. Said Naruto. Out of the corner of her eye, Tenten spotted an ice cream shop. Hey Naruto, what's your favorite flavored ice cream? Asked Tenten. I don't know, I've never had any before. Said Naruto. Tenten looked at Naruto as if a second head had instantly sprouted out of his neck. What? I've only known one ice cream shop and the lady who owned it would always come at me with a broom if I got anywhere near it. Said Naruto. Why would she do that? Asked Tenten. Naruto put a hand lightly on his stomach. That's a long story. Said Naruto. Tenten frowned. There must have a lot more to Naruto than what was on the surface. Naruto, I want you to stay right here. I'll be right back, said Tenten. Tenten ran into the ice cream store, leaving a confused Naruto behind. So, you thinking about telling her? Asked Alu. I don't know, maybe. How's having to put up with Kyuubi like? Asked Naruto. Oh, I'm having lots of fun poking fun at him. The fact that he was a high and mighty demon now sealed inside someone inferior to him is the most aggravating thing in the world to him. Glad you're enjoying yourself. Tenten came back with 2 chocolate ice cream cones. She handed one to Naruto. Here, I figure if you're going to have your first ice cream cone, the flavor might as well be chocolate. Said Tenten. Thanks Tenten. Said Naruto. Temari sighed to herself in the apartment she was sharing with her brothers and sensei. Her thoughts kept drifting back to the preliminaries with the words Naruto said and the look he gave her. Where does he get off? Why should he care what does or doesn't happen to me? But more importantly, why do I care? Temari started to hit head against her folded up fan. Why? Bonk. Can't. Bonk. I. Bonk. Get. Bonk. Him. Bonk. Out. Bonk. Of. Bonk. My. Bonk. Head. Bonk. Gaara entered the room and raised an eyebrow at his sister's actions. Why is she doing that? Asked Gaara. Who knows? Girls are weird. Said Kankuro. Agreed. Temari rubbed her now red-marked forehead. Ow. I gave myself a headache. Said Temari. Temari got up and started to walk towards the door. Now where are you going? Asked Kankuro. To get an ice pack. And then for a walk. Said Temari. Naruto licked his chops, now finished with his ice cream. He had a nice time eating his ice cream and getting to know Tenten better. Well Naruto, it's been fun, but I really need to get going. If I'm not home before curfew, dad'll blow a gasket. Said Tenten. Well, if you really have to go, said Naruto. Yeah, but let's do this again sometime. Said Tenten. Yeah, sure, okay. Said Naruto. Naruto waved goodbye to Tenten as she started to leave. I think she likes you. Said Alu. Nah, girl like her wouldn't want a guy like me. She just probably wants a sane friend. Said Naruto. Well, as long as you're here, you might as well try to find some new clothes that can stretch. I suppose you're right. I sure am going to miss my orange jumpsuit though. Said Naruto. Yuji, why do you even wear the tacky thing? It's not suitable for a ninja. It's like you're saying, hey. Here I am. Kill me. It's a suit someone notices by force. Said Alu. Exactly. It's true that I'm often sent hateful glares my way, but I'm often ignored coldly too. With my orange jumpsuit, they have no choice but to notice me. I never thought of it like that. Naruto started wandering around the mall looking for a clothes store that would have what he'd need. Naruto. Naruto turned to see Ino, obviously surprised to see him. Ino. What are you doing here? Asked Naruto. Ino looked at him with half-lidded eyes. It's a mall, Naruto. Did you actually expect for me not to be here? Asked Ino. I guess you have a point there. Said Naruto. So what are you doing here? Asked Ino. Oh, I need a new outfit that can stretch to replace my jumpsuit. I'm afraid it's just not cutting it anymore. Said Naruto. About time, that thing is way beyond tacky. Said Ino. See, the smart blonde girl agrees with me. Said Alu. The smart blonde girl agrees with me. Mocked Naruto. Anyways, do you know of any stores that have clothes that'll stretch to ridiculous lengths? Asked Naruto. Oh, I know just the store. Said Ino. Ino grabbed his arm and started to drag him over to store. This store has a knack for having clothes that are both fashionable and functional. Said Ino. Ino went looking through some of the men's shirts trying to find a suitable shirt for Naruto. Ino, you don't have to help me this much. Said Naruto. Yes I do. You have absolutely no fashion sense. Said Ino. An anger vein appeared on Naruto's head. Excuse me? Asked Naruto. Come on Naruto, I don't want us all to suffer due to your poor choices. Said Ino. No wonder Sasuke never chose her. Thought Naruto. Ino put a number of cloth articles and started pushing him towards a changing room. Trust me, I'm repaying a favor here. Said Ino. Favor. Before he could finish Ino pushed him in and closed the curtains. Naruto grumbled to himself as he started to put on the clothes Ino gave him. What did you mean favor? Asked Naruto. Well thanks to you, I'm starting to notice some other boys, and they are definitely noticing me. I've already set up for 4 dates next week. Said Ino. That's great, knew you'd find somebody. Said Naruto. Naruto sighed, he had to disagree with the clothes Ino picked out for him. He thought he looked like Sasuke. He shuddered involuntarily. Okay, I'm coming out, but I don't think black is a good color for me, and I need a bigger size, this shirt clings too much. Said Naruto. Naruto could hear Ino's foot tap impatiently as he opened the curtains. Ino's jaw dropped. Naruto had pecs, abs, even a six-pack. He had more muscles than anyone she had ever seen. You have muscles. You have muscles. Who said you have muscles? Shouted Ino. No one. Said Naruto. Ino shook herself out of her stupor. Damn Naruto. I didn't know you were training so hard. Said Ino. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the most noticeable features of a werewolf. Said Alu. Naruto scratched the back of his neck shyly. Naruto decided he should probably change the subject before Ino started asking too many questions. Hey look, they have orange clothing. Said Naruto. No more orange. Said Ino. But I like orange. Orange isn't your color. You should try black. Said Ino. Blue. Deal. Ino smiled to herself. She had just done the citizens of Konoha a huge favor by getting Naruto to try on a different color of clothes. No reason why they should all have to suffer due to Naruto's poor fashion sense. Just make sure the stuff can stretch. Said Naruto. Don't worry, because of some of the jutsus our ninjas do, they've made sure these things can stretch about a mile at least. Said Ino. Ino picked out several blue clothes for him, including a couple muscle shirts. Kurenai smiled as she walked down the streets. She had finally gotten Hinata to agree to a double date. Of course the poor girl fainted 5 separate times first. So now all she had to do was arrange the date with Iruka. However, there was one little problem that she hadn't taken into account. This was one of the few parts of the village that she hadn't been to. This meant only one thing. I am completely lost. Naruto and several Kage Bushins walked out of the clothing store, each one grumbling. Ino, I don't think we really needed to buy this much clothes. Said the original. Nonsense, there's no such thing as too much new clothes. Said Ino. This caused the Kage Bushins to roll their eyes. Naruto heard a growl come from Ino's stomach. Hungry huh? Well don't worry, I'm sure we could find a food court around here somewhere. Said Naruto. No thanks Naruto, I'm on a diet. I have to watch my figure, I'm already fat enough as it is. Said Ino. Ino was surprised to see that she was on the receiving end of a deadly glare from Naruto. What? You are not fat. Do you have any idea how many malnourished women I've seen in town, and they still think they're fat? I could see their rib cages, they were like skeletons with skins on. You're beautiful just the way you are, Ino. Never let anyone tell you any different. Shouted Naruto. Of course, Naruto, being the knucklehead that he is, had no idea that he just called Ino beautiful. This got a very surprised look from Ino. It's one thing to go out on a diet when you have something like a gut, but it's another to go starving yourself. Said Naruto. Ino stood for a moment or two before shaking herself out of her stupor. PFT. Like you're one to talk, mister, I eat nothing but ramen. Said Ino. Hey, speaking of ramen, we should probably find a ramen stand somewhere around here. Said Naruto. Naruto, there's no ramen stand here in the mall. Said Ino. Naruto stood dumbfounded for a second. What kind of upside down mall is this? Shouted Naruto. Hinata stared at her sheets. She couldn't believe it. She and Kurenai might be going out with Naruto and Iruka. It was a dream come true, well, except for the part about Kurenai and Iruka, she hadn't seen that one coming. Hinata remembered the first time she met Naruto. Flashback. 6-year-old Hinata was sobbing on the grass until she heard a voice. Hey, what you crying for? Asked the voice. Hinata looked up to see a 6-year-old Naruto. Hinata sniffled for a second. Those mean boys took the new dolly my mommy gave me. Sobbed Hinata. Well, that's not nice. You stay right here. I'll be right back, so don't move. Said Naruto. 5 minutes later, Naruto was running from a couple of boys drenched in paint. He ran over to Hinata, put something in her arms. Hinata stared at the gift she had just received. It was the very doll the bullies had taken from her, and while they were soaked in paint, there didn't appear to be a single drop on her doll. Look, there he is. Come back here, you demon brat. Shouted one of the bullies. Here, hurried Naruto. Naruto ran as fast as his little legs could take him as older boys ran after him. However, only one thing stuck in Hinata's mind. He got my dolly back. Thought Hinata. End flashback. And now I might be going out on with him. It's almost too good to be true. Gasp. What am I going to wear? Naruto waved goodbye to Ino as he and his clones started to head back. Well, that was fun, said a clone. I guess, but did you see the way she was looking at me? It was as if I just sprouted another head to her or something. Said the original. Naruto suddenly heard a crash followed by something falling to the ground. God fucking damn it, shouted a voice. You guys take the new clothes home, I'll check it out. Said the original. They nodded and went on their way. Naruto headed over to where he heard the crash and saw Temari on the ground with twigs in her hair. Her fan hand landed a good distance away and she herself looked like she landed in a painful position. Temari. Temari looked up and flinched at who she saw. Oh, it's you, said Temari. Need a hand? Asked Naruto. Temari glared defiantly at him. No. Temari struggled to get up for a moment but found that she couldn't. Yes, she admitted. Naruto held out his hand, which she grabbed firmly. As Naruto helped her up, she tried to get some of the twigs out with her free hand. So what happened to you? Asked Naruto. Temari mumbled something incoherent. Come again? Asked Naruto. I crashed into the tree, alright. Said Temari. That kind of seems like an amateur mistake for a wind mistress. Said Naruto. Hey, my mind was elsewhere. Said Temari. Temari. What? You can let go of my hand anytime, ya know. Said Naruto. Temari looked down to see that she had never let go of his hand when she was being helped up. She let go as if Naruto's hand were on fire. And Temari, started Naruto. Naruto raised towards Temari's face, which started to blush furiously. Oh my god, is he going to try to kiss me? Thought Temari. Naruto pulled a twig out of her hair. Missed one, said Naruto. Temari face faulted. Hey, you okay? Asked Naruto. Just leave. I'm feeling confused enough as it is. Shouted Temari. Naruto blinked in confusion. Confused? What's there to feel confused about? Asked Naruto. Forget it. I'll leave. said Temari. Temari stomped over to where her fan was only to trip over a branch that fell out of the tree that she hit. Is it just me or is there always a lot of gravity involved whenever I'm with women? Thought Naruto. Naruto winced as he saw the wound on Temari's leg caused by her little tumble. That looks pretty bad. Here, let me help, said Naruto. Naruto took his sleeve and ripped half of it off. Temari then decided to show Naruto her impression of a fish with her mouth opening and closing. What? Look, I'm getting rid of this thing so it doesn't matter if I rip it. I'm not gapping about that, you idiot. It's your arm. Naruto looked at his arm and Temari. What about it? I never realized it because of the jumpsuit, but if your arm is any indication, you must actually be pretty ripped, said Temari. Naruto grinned sheepishly and started to scratch the back of his head. Aw shucks, you're going to make me blush. But enough about me, let's wrap up that leg, said Naruto. Get fresh and I'll kill you, said Temari. Got it. Temari forced down a blush as Naruto started to wrap her leg. There we go, you can walk and everything, right? Asked Naruto. Temari stood up and smirked. Good. Well, I really ought to be heading home now. Try not to crash into any more trees, okay? I'll see you later. Temari scoffed at the remark but couldn't help but smirk to herself as she watched Naruto's retreating figure. Kiba looked at sister questionably. She'd been in serious thought for over an hour. Sis, is there something wrong? Asked Kiba. Oh, nothing. I'm just wondering how I should ask out a certain guy, that's all, said Hana. A guy? Who is it? Asked Kiba. Oh, it's your old teacher from the academy, Iruka, said Hana. What? You can't date my old sensei, shouted Kiba. For your information, Gaki, I can date whoever I want, said Hana. But why him? Asked Kiba. Kiba, I'm going to let you in on a little family secret. The women of our family have always been attracted to men with fatherly instincts. And I only just recently discovered how much of that Iruka has. Can't believe I've never noticed him that way before. Well, I'm off to check my wardrobe, said Hana. Kiba covered his eyes with the palm of his hand. This is so wrong, said Kiba. Naruto yawned as he plopped himself down on his bed. Night had come awfully early. What a day, I am totally wiped, said Naruto. Just as Naruto was about to close his eyes, he heard a distant scream. Tonight's never going to end, is it? Asked Naruto. It's alright for me to check it out in my hybrid form as long as no one knows who I am, right? That's right. That's all I needed to hear. Kin was running for her life. She couldn't believe it. Her fellow sound nins were trying to kill her. She turned into an alley only to find a dead end. She turned around only to see Yuya and the rest of the elite sound nins. I don't know what you're so fucking upset about. It is a friggin' honor to give your life to Orochimaru-sama, said Yuya. No, 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 I don't want to die, shouted Kin. Well, that's too fucking bad, bitch. Orochimaru-sama always gets what he wants, said Yuya. However, their advancement was halted by a blood-curdling howl. Did you hear that? Shut your fat ass up, we got work to do, said Yuya. However, the mighty elite sound nins screamed as a silver-furred werewolf landed in between them and their victim. There was a group gulp as the werewolf started to growl at them. They tossed a trash can at Lunar Beast only to have it sliced to ribbons by werewolf claws. Maybe we should get out of here. Quiet chicken dick. We aren't running just because. However, Yuya changed her mind as the werewolf roared in her face. Let's get the hell out of here, screamed Yuya. Naruto turned to Kin, who pressed her back to the wall. You okay? Asked Naruto. Kin's eyes rolled to the back of her head and she fell to the ground in a faint. Hey, I was right, a lot of gravity is involved whenever I'm with women. I got a feeling those bozos aren't going to give up on trying to kill her, can't have that, thought Naruto. Naruto thought for a moment. I know, the old man'll know what to do. But I'd better change back, don't want to give the old man a heart attack. Naruto changed back and picked Kin up bridal style. The Hokage grumbled to himself as he was only halfway through his paperwork despite the late hour. The natural enemy of a Hokage, paperwork. Grumbled Sarutobi. Suddenly a blur entered the room. Needless to say, Sarutobi was surprised to see Naruto with a young woman in his arms. We have a problem, said Naruto. Well, Naruto, I must admit this is a most unexpected. Mind explaining to me why you have brought an unconscious girl to my office? Asked Sarutobi. She was attacked by ninjas from her own village, no less, said Naruto. This caused the old man's eyes to widen in surprise. Quickly, put her down in the chair in front of my desk, said Sarutobi. Naruto did as he was told as the Hokage came to look Kin over. She has no injuries on her. I take it she merely fainted from seeing one of your werewolf forms, said Sarutobi. Naruto froze. You? How? Naruto, the Yondaime was both my successor and my predecessor. Do you really think I would pass on my title without knowing everything about him? Minato only let his most precious people in on what he truly was. I felt honored and humbled he would let me in on his secret. So it's only natural that you would be a werewolf too, said Sarutobi. Naruto gave a small smile. Being a werewolf is kind of a rush. But it also feels natural, especially in a forest. But let's focus on our little friend here, said Naruto. Yes, why don't you explain what happened from the beginning? Said Sarutobi. Iruka yawned as he heard a knock on his door. Who in their right mind would want to be trying to reach me at this hour? Asked Iruka. Iruka opened his door to see an out-of-breath Kurenai. Finally, I've been lost for hours. It took me forever to get back into this section of Konoha. Anyways, Iruka, you're probably wondering what I'm doing here. Iruka's eyes were more than halfway closed and he seemed to be wobbling where he stood. You're half asleep, aren't you? Asked Kurenai. Iruka grunted in response. A playful smile crossed her lips. I know a way to wake you up, said Kurenai. Iruka grunted once again. Kurenai gave a small peck to his cheek. Iruka's face immediately started to glow bright red. KKK Kurenai, stuttered Iruka. Knew it would work. Kurenai giggled. Iruka, now fully awake, gave his undivided attention to Kurenai. What are you doing here? Asked Iruka. Kurenai's playful smile made a reappearance. I have a proposal for you, Iruka-kun, said Kurenai. Iruka's eyes widened at being referred to as kun, and gulped. Well, Naruto, it's late. Thank you for filling me in on what happened, but I think I will take it from here. I'm also afraid we're going to have to let her in on your secret of being a werewolf, said Sarutobi. What? Why? Shouted Naruto. Naruto, she's bound to find out sooner or later. But don't worry, I won't let her tell anyone. Now go get some rest, said Sarutobi. Naruto felt a little uneasy about letting a total stranger in on his secret, but he trusted the old man. Alright, I just hope you know what you're doing, said Naruto. Naruto started to head towards the door. Today was a really long day and he needed to hit the sack badly. Oh Naruto, before I forget, there has been something I've been meaning to give you, said Sarutobi. Sarutobi walked over to Naruto and handed him an envelope. Inside is a letter from your father along with the keys and a map to his old household. I was asked to give these to you when certain traits surfaced, said Sarutobi. Naruto gave a sad smile as he took the letter. Thanks, old man. Outside, Naruto opened the envelope to find everything inside the Hokage said there would be. Keys, letter, map, the whole kit and caboodle. Naruto decided he would read the letter when he would get to the household. That way he would be sure that only he was reading it and not somebody who was hiding too. So he was a little paranoid, show him someone who wasn't in some shape or form. He followed the map he was given for about an hour. Just when he was about to give up and go back to his apartment, he had finally found it. Naruto looked up at his father's old household, and up, and up. Holy crap. This isn't a household, this is a friggin' mansion, said Naruto. It was true, the house that had been left to him was more like a mansion. Naruto made a cage bushin and sent it back to his apartment to retrieve his things. Well, might as well see what's inside, said Naruto. Naruto walked up to the door and unlocked it with one of the keys. Inside, Naruto wasn't surprised at how dusty it was. It was obvious no one had been inside for many years. Naruto closed the door behind him and decided now was a good time to read that letter. Naruto opened it up and smiled at the fact that it was a bit of a long letter. Dear Naruto, if you're reading this, then my plan worked and the Kyuubi is sealed within you and that I am dead. You must know that I never wanted this for you, to be born an orphan. To experience the pain of being alone while watch parents comfort their children on a daily basis. I know how the villagers are probably treating you, try not to judge them too harshly, they are only acting out of pain. Both myself and your mother would give anything to be there for you, to give you the love you so rightly deserve. But if you're anything like your old man, you won't let anything stand in the way of your dreams. So keep a stiff upper lip and walk with pride, show them that it will take more than a few harsh words and cold glares to keep down an Uzumaki. Now if you excuse me, I need to show a certain fox why it's not a healthy idea to mess with the village hidden in the leaves. Your loving father, Minato Uzumaki. Naruto was confused, he felt happier than he had ever been before and yet tears were streaming down his face. They simply wouldn't stop. Naruto held the piece of paper tightly to his chest. Naruto had precious people in his life, but now he also had a precious item, the letter from his father. He would make sure to cherish it always. Naruto wiped away the tears as he tucked the letter into his pocket. Well, I can't just stand around and cry all night. Time to find a room, said Naruto. His cage bushin soon arrived with most of Naruto's belongings. Naruto put on his PJs and his sleeping cap, leaving the rest of his belongings on the floor. After a little exploring, Naruto finally found a bedroom and plopped down onto it. It didn't take long for sleep to overcome him. Naruto found himself once again in front of Kyuubi's cage. Only this time he found Alu torturing the once mighty demon. Fuzzy Wuzzy was Fox, Fuzzy Wuzzy had no socks. And when the Yondaime came out to play, Fuzzy Wuzzy got sealed away. Mocked Alu. I hate you. Oh, what did I ever do to deserve this? Asked Kyuubi. Want me to break out the list? Asked Alu. No. Not that stupid list again. I can't take it, shouted Kyuubi. Naruto cleared his throat to the attention of the spirit guide wolf. Oh hello, cub, said Alu. Looks more like a kit to me, said Kyuubi. He's a wolf, not a fox. Come Naruto, there is still much to discuss, said Alu. As Naruto and Alu started to leave, Kyuubi began to voice his displeasure. Hey, you losers can't just the mighty Kyuubi no. Shut up. Nobody cares what you have to say. Now leave us alone or else I'll turn your cage pink, said Alu. You wouldn't dare. Try me, challenged Alu. Naruto was amazed to see that the mighty demon started to pout. That's what I thought. Come along Naruto-kun, said Alu. Naruto followed Alu out of the room and away from Kyuubi. Naruto and Alu entered another room that Naruto didn't think existed. Naruto, I think there's something you need to see. You see, your father came from a clan of werewolves, and while they were powerful, they were also blinded by foolish pride. What I am about to show you is a shadow of your father's past. The memory I secretly witnessed on the day your father turned his back on the clan, said Alu. The room instantly started to shimmer until it changed into a grand hall where several old men were sitting at the end of the room. Why's everything in black and white? Asked Naruto. I'm a wolf, I'm colored blind, cut me some slack, said Alu. Fair enough, said Naruto. The doors instantly slammed open as a man that looked like an older and more matured Naruto entered the room. Is that my father? Asked Naruto. Yes. And you are about to witness one of his defining moments, said Alu. Father, shouted the man. The eldest of the old foggies glared at the man. What is the meaning of this, Minato? Why don't you tell me? What's this rubbish about the family not accepting my engagement? Asked Minato. Minato, you are my son and a werewolf prodigy, but I simply cannot accept your engagement to a human. Arashi's fist tightened. That's what this is all about. Because she's human. Because she wasn't born a werewolf. The Kazamas have always married into other werewolf clans. To marry a human is an insult to us all, you should have just found a nice she-wolf. At this point Minato was trembling with anger. I can't believe you believe this clan. If this is what it means to be a Kazama, then I don't want anything to do with it any longer. Shouted Minato. The old man's eyes widened in realization at what his son was saying. You don't mean. That's right, if you let her marry into our family, then I'll just have to marry into hers. I don't want to do anything associated with this clan anymore. Minato Kazama no longer exists, now there is only Minato Uzumaki. Minato started leave but paused and gave his father one last look. You'd better watch out, because from now on there'll be two werewolf clans, the Kazamas and the Uzumakis. Said Minato. I showed you this because I thought you had a right to know what happened to your father's side of the family. Except Minato, they were all killed in a clan civil war. But I wanted you to know how much your father sacrificed himself for the women he loved and the child that was within her. Said Alu. Naruto gave a sad smile. The man just kept on giving. Said Naruto. Yes, but now I think it is time for you to wake up. Said Alu. Why? Asked Naruto. Alu smiled smugly. You're about to have a visitor. Knock. 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 Naruto groggily sat up. Guess she was right. Said Naruto. Naruto tiredly started to walk towards the front door. Knock. 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 I'm coming, called Naruto. Naruto opened the door to find Kin staring at her feet timidly. The gears in Naruto's head stopped spinning for a moment as he saw the X-sound nin standing in front of him. It took a kick start from Alu to get them going again. What are you doing here? Asked Naruto. Hokage sent me here because he said that you were supposed to be my guardian during my time here and that your place would be my safe house. Said Kin. Naruto sighed to himself. Terrific. But these are desperate times, so come on in. Said Naruto. Naruto raised an eyebrow when Kin didn't come in. It looked like she was staring at something, to be more accurate his pajamas, or so he thinks. Okay, so ever since his werewolf abilities became active his PJs were a bit smaller, but that didn't mean she had to stare with some drool coming out of her mouth. Well, the drool. He didn't know what the drool was about, but point was he had enough. Naruto snapped his fingers a couple of times in front of her face, snapping her out of her stupor. You coming or what? Asked Naruto. Right, said Kin. I'm still new to this house myself, so we're going to have to explore to find you a room. Said Naruto. As Naruto and Kin tried to find another bedroom, Naruto couldn't help but feel Kin's occasional stare. Why do you keep staring at me like that? Asked Naruto. Hokage-sama told me about everything. From Kyuubi, to the cold stares, to you being the werewolf that saved me. How can you keep smiling after all that's happened to you? Asked Kin. Any idiot can have a great amount of outer strength, but it takes a man to have a great amount of inner strength. Said Naruto. To say that Kin was impressed was an understatement. She was amazed at how much inner strength and bravery Naruto had. Hey look, we finally found an empty room. Okay, I'm right down the hall, so if you know who tries to break in and get you, you can come down and get me. Or if you just need to find the bathroom or something. Said Naruto. Kin nodded and entered the room. Naruto went back to his own room and crawled into bed. Naruto tried to fall asleep for about an hour, but it was to no avail. It was one of those rare nights when one was too tired to sleep. Just when he was about to try again, the door to his room opened. Kin, is that you? Asked Naruto. Naruto didn't even turn to look at her, he was so tired. Why yes, I was just wondering if it would be okay if I slept with you tonight. You see, my room is just so dark and after everything that's happened today you can't help but feel as those creeps are watching and waiting in every shadow. Asked Naruto. Yes, that's it exactly. Said Kin. Okay, you can sleep here tonight. I don't blame you for not wanting to sleep alone, today must have been pretty scary, so it's alright. The bed is more than big enough for two. But you don't have to worry about those jerks anymore, I won't ever let them hurt you," said Naruto. Kin thanked him and crawled into bed. Naruto was just thankful that there was more than enough room in the bed, thus avoiding any awkward contact. Naruto woke up the next morning but with a confused look on his face. "Something doesn't feel quite right," said Naruto. It took Naruto a moment or two to figure out what was wrong. And when he did, his face turned atomic red. Kin was wearing his old orange jumpsuit, minus the sleeve, but more importantly she was holding onto his torso like a giant teddy bear, looking quite content. Naruto's blush deepened as she started to snuggle into his chest. "Okay. Time to end this. Kin, wake up," said Naruto. He shook her shoulder a couple of times, waking her up. Kin looked around her surroundings groggily until she realized what she was doing. She leapt out of bed and away from Naruto with a heavy blush on her face. "Two things. First, what are you doing wearing my old jumpsuit? Second, why were you using me as a teddy bear back there?" asked Naruto. Well, you see, I didn't have any pajamas left and I found this jumpsuit lying in the middle of the floor in front of the front door," said Kin. "I guess I can buy that. Now what about happened 15 seconds ago?" asked Naruto. "Oh, that. Well, I tend to hold things in the middle of the night, close to me," said Kin. Kin mentally winced. The truth was that for some reason she felt safe with him, but she just told a really far-fetched lie. What kind of complete and utter moron would believe that? Who? Okay, I'll believe that," said Naruto. Kin blinked in confusion. He bought it. "Now that's over with, I think it's time for me to get dressed," said Naruto. Kin, catching the hint that he wanted to change in private, started to back out the door. "Right, I'll just wait for you downstairs," said Kin. "It's a funny thing walking backwards, you can never see where you're going, so you're most likely to ow, trip. There's that gravity again," said Naruto. Naruto was now dressed in a blue muscle shirt wearing matching blue jeans. "Well, I'm off. I have to visit Sasuke at the hospital, train for the Chunin exams, pick up some groceries, and do a whole bunch of other crap," said Naruto. Naruto was about to leave when something caught his attention, a very loud something. "Naruto-sama!" shouted Kin. Naruto froze. "Sama." Naruto turned around and saw that Kin was bowing to him as if he were his new Orochimaru. Naruto let out a yelp of surprise and jumped a couple of steps back. "What do you think you're doing?" shouted Naruto. "Naruto-sama, I owe my life to you and because of this I shall serve you for the remainder of my days," said Kin. Many of you are probably wondering why Kin didn't do this last night when she first arrived. Well, it would have been a little embarrassing for her to do right off the bat. Plus she wasn't exactly sure Naruto was worth it, having not known him very well. For all she knew, he could secretly be another Orochimaru. But now, after getting to know him last night, she was sure that he was the one person that was truly worth bowing down to. "Now cut that out. You're making a scene," said Naruto. "But Naruto-sama, and stop calling me that. I'm no lord and I'm certainly not a Hokage, well, at least not yet anyways. Look, I'm going to go now, you stay here and watch the house. When I return I expect for you to not be bowing to me," said Naruto. "What do you mean Sasuke's not taking any visitors?" shouted Naruto. "Please keep your voice down, sir. This is a hospital. I'm sorry to say that Mr. Uchiha's condition is still too critical," said the nurse. Naruto growled. "Oi, what's all the noise about?" asked a voice. Naruto turned and saw Kakashi reading his orange book. "Kakashi-sensei. Just who I need. I need you to train me for upcoming finals," said Naruto. "Sorry Naruto, but I'm afraid I'm going to be too busy to train you," said Kakashi. "Yeah, right. You're probably just saying that because you're really going to train Sasuke, aren't you?" shouted Naruto. "No, I just have some important business to take care of. But I didn't forget about you either and found you a teacher," said Kakashi. Ebisu walked down the hall adjusting his glasses. "That would be me." "Oh hell no," said Naruto. "There a problem?" asked Kakashi. "I know this guy and I hate him. You say that you're not really going to not train Sasuke, but I can smell that you're lying, said Naruto. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Smell. Forget about that. Point is, you're a bad teacher. No teacher shows favoritism of one student over the others, even Iruka sensei will tell you that, said Naruto. To say that Kakashi was stunned would be an understatement, he was close to shocked. Naruto never acted this way, at least not to him. You're probably going to end up teaching him some super cool jutsu, like maybe that Chidori thingy, said Kakashi. Naruto saw Kakashi sweat. Ha, I hit the nail on the head, didn't I? Well, what are you going to do after that? Are you going to teach me a jutsu just as good, or what about Sakura-san? She needs the help most of all, said Naruto. Kakashi was speechless. He honestly couldn't think of anything to say in his defense. Just so you know, Kakashi-sensei, you have 3 students, not 1, shouted Naruto. Kakashi fell over backwards from the force of Naruto yell. I'm out of here, but I think you should know that maybe you're the one that needs to go back to the academy. Because you obviously don't know how to balance a team, said Naruto. Naruto stormed out of hospital, not caring where he went, just as long as it was away from Kakashi. Naruto, shouted a voice. Off in the distance, Naruto spotted the man he once called sensei running towards him. This man also had another name, Iruka. Iruka stopped in front of his former student, out of breath. Sensei, what is it? Why are you out of breath? Asked Naruto. Tayuya gulped. Why do I have to be the fucking retard to tell him? The rest of you were pissing your pants as much as I was, said Tayuya. Just do it. They pushed Tayuya into the room where Orochimaru was waiting for one of them to report on the assassination of Kin. Oh, Orochimaru-sama, stuttered Tayuya. Orochimaru turned to her with his typical grin. I regret to inform that Kin managed to get away, said Tayuya. Coo. I must admit I am surprised that she managed to slip through your fingers, but it is of no matter. Bring me Dosu's body, said Orochimaru. Naruto walked through the streets with his mind on what Iruka had told him. Iruka and himself were supposed to go on a double date with Kurenai and Hinata. He supposed that there were worse girls to go out on a date with, which had brought him to another matter. Naruto had been thinking a lot of the Hyuga heiress and he didn't know why. True, how hurt she got in her fight and how Neji treated her had royally pissed him off. But why was it that he hated seeing her hurt so much? When Naruto had really thought about it, if it were him that had to fight Hinata, Naruto wasn't sure he could do it. He wasn't sure why, but just couldn't picture himself hitting Hinata. It just seemed wrong. You there. I will not allow such perversion. Shut up. There was the sound of a puff of smoke followed by a man flying overhead. What the? Started Naruto. Naruto ran over to the man and saw that it was Ebisu. Ebisu. Who could have? Naruto looked over to the direction from which Ebisu was thrown from. There was only one thing Naruto could say at what he was seeing. Just who the heck are you? And what's up with the giant frog? Shouted Naruto. Naruto pointed to an old man on top of some type of striped toad. The old man's face lit up at the chance for an introduction. Good question. I am the most holy hermit sage of the Mount Myoboku toads, otherwise known as the Toad Sage, Jiraiya. Pleased to meet ya. Naruto's left eye started to twitch. Fine. Good for you. But why did you do that to him? Asked Naruto. He interfered with my research. Research. I'm a writer. I write novels. Jiraiya pulled out an O2 familiar orange book. Like this one. That's that pervert book that Kakashi-sensei won't stop reading. Shouted Naruto. Oh, so your sensei is a fan, is he? Asked Jiraiya. He won't stop reading it. We can't get him to stop. And if you wrote that perverted junk, then you must be an even bigger pervert, accused Naruto. Wrong. I am no ordinary pervert. I'm a super pervert, said Jiraiya gleefully. Naruto hit his forehead with the palm of his hand. Oh, screw this. I've got training to do, said Naruto. Naruto turned around and started walking towards the forest. He had been meaning to develop some jutsus for his werewolf side. What's your hurry? Werewolf. Naruto froze and slowly turned to face the perverted sage. But how did you? Kid, I trained the fourth. You think I don't know a werewolf when I see one? Naruto fell into the hot spring for about the 10th time. Stupid seal. It's making my chakra act all wonky. Thought Naruto. Yeah, well, the worst it's done in here was made Kyuubi's cage slightly lopsided. Not even enough to notice. Naruto threw off his shirt. No point of wearing this, said Naruto. Hey kid, focus your chakra for a moment, I need to check on something, said Jiraiya. Naruto shrugged. The old man had agreed to be his sensei until the third part of the Chunin exams began. Naruto did as he was told and started to focus his chakra. Just as I thought. Come here for a sec, said Jiraiya. Naruto walked over to Jiraiya. Now he's just acting weird, thought Naruto. Jiraiya threw his hands up into the air. Raise your arms up like bonsai, said Jiraiya. Okay, now he's up to something, thought Naruto. What are you? 5-prong seal release. Naruto fell to the ground clutching his stomach. Hey, it's not lopsided in here anymore, said Alu. Oh, what did you do to me? I undid Orochimaru damage to your seal. How about a little gratitude, huh? If you weren't the spitting image of your father, I wouldn't even bother with you, said Jiraiya. Whatever, said Naruto. Well, squirt, try it now, said Jiraiya. Naruto walked out onto the water without any problems whatsoever. Now it isn't so hard anymore. I guess you're not so bad after all, Ero Sennin, said Naruto. Don't call me that. Now listen up. We'll continue your training tomorrow, said Jiraiya. Yeah, okay. See you tomorrow, said Naruto. Anbu Black Ops were growing concerned. Sarutobi had locked himself in the office after Naruto. Hokage-sama, is everything alright there? Asked one of the Anbus. I'm busy finishing up a 12-year experiment. I'm almost done, so make sure nobody bothers me under any circumstances. Hi Hokage-sama. Sarutobi wiped his brow. Now that they're gone, maybe I can continue with my work. Orochimaru is in for the biggest surprise of his life. It's time I corrected my mistake. Naruto walked down the road with his hands in his pants pocket. His thoughts drifted back to the whole double date thing. How the hell was he supposed to go on a double date? He never dated anyone in his entire life. Hey, Naruto, called a voice. Naruto knew that voice. That was Tenten's voice. She finally reached him and paused to catch her breath. Hey Tenten, what's up? Asked Naruto. You walked right past me without even blinking an eye. What has you distracted so much? Asked Tenten. Tenten had to admit, she was definitely liking what the muscle shirt was wearing. She means the muscle shirt he was wearing. Not the other way around. Well, you see, I kind of have to go out on double date and I don't know what to do on it, said Naruto. Tenten's left eye started to twitch. The one thing she hadn't been expecting was competition. She figured that Naruto was there and was going to stay available there for a while, but if she guessed right, his availability might be closing fast. If one woman wanted to date him besides herself, then it would only be a matter of time before more would also want to date him. If she really wanted to end up with Naruto, she was going to have to play hardball. Oh really? With who? Asked the twitching Tenten. Iruka-sensei will be dating Kurenai-sensei while I'll be dating Hinata, said Naruto. So it was the Hyuga girl. Just about everyone knew she had a monster crush on him, maybe more. Everyone but Naruto Uzumaki, that is. He was oblivious as a cow in a slaughterhouse. As far as Tenten was concerned, she was still in this game. The fact that Kurenai wanted to go out with Iruka seemed a little odd. She always figured she was out of Iruka's class. But Hinata actually gathering the courage needed to date Naruto wasn't something she had expected. So what you're saying is that you have a date coming up and you have no idea what to do on it, correct? I guess, that's sort of it, said Naruto. A plan started to formulate in Tenten's mind. Well Naruto, I think I might be able to help you. Really? How? Asked Naruto. I'm going to teach you. Now come on, said Tenten. Before Naruto could react, Tenten grabbed his hand and ran off, dragging him the whole way. Anko took another big swig of sake. Damn, that man's elusive. She had been trying to get a hold of Iruka for quite a while now, but he kept escaping from her grasp. Well, you seem to be hitting the sake pretty hard today, said a voice. Anko squinted her eyes to try and see who the blurry visitor was. The image settled into Kakashi reading his perverted orange book. If Anko wasn't so dizzy, she would have slugged him for reading that in her presence. Oh, it's you, Arrow Cyclops, said Anko. Kakashi's sweat dropped. You do know that my other eye is just hidden by. Whatever. What do you want? Asked Anko. Well, you seem pretty distracted by something. Is anything wrong? Asked Kakashi. Oh, it's that Chunin Iruka Yumino. I've been trying to score a date with him, but he keeps slipping through my fingers. It just doesn't make sense about how a Chunin could be so slippery, said Anko. You mean you don't know? Iruka is still a Chunin, but only because he wishes to remain a Chunin. What? If he were to become Junin or higher, then he would have to stop working at the academy. And I think we all know how much he loves working there. Kakashi had a point. Iruka did love his job. Wait a minute, how do you know all this? Asked Anko. Oh well, me, Asuma, and Iruka are poker buddies. Poor Iruka, he can never seem to win. Why are you looking at me like that? Anko smiled one of her terrifying smiles at him. If you're friends with him, then you can set me up on a date with him, said Anko. Now let's just hold on here for a second. Anko was about to respond when she suddenly fell to the floor, passed out. Saved by the sake, said Kakashi. Tenten pulled Naruto into the ice cream shop that they visited last time. What are we doing here again? Are we getting more ice cream? Asked Naruto. Sort of. Your first lesson is here, said Tenten. She pulled Naruto in and had him take a seat at a table. Now stay right here, I'm going to go order us a milkshake, said Tenten. Milkshake? As in non-plural? Asked Naruto. That's right, now don't move, said Tenten. Naruto swallowed a lump in his throat. After placing an order, Tenten soon sat across from him. Now then, we're here so you can learn how to drink a shake with a lady. Their shake arrived with 2 straws already inside. All right now, usually, hey, don't drink when I'm talking to you. It's rude. Anyways, like I was saying, it's usually best to take small sips. If you want to take big ones, it's usually best to do it with the girl you're drinking with, said Tenten. This whole speech was making Naruto blush. Another important factor is that when you're taking these sips, stare at the girl, not the drink. Let's try now, shall we? Asked Tenten. Naruto's blush deepened. Naruto started to drink, a little nervous that Tenten was smiling now that he was forced to stare intently at her face. Kurenai walked into Hinata's room with a smile on her face. Well, I've set it up. Once you get out of here, you'll be on your first date with Naruto, said Kurenai. Hinata smiled bigger than Kurenai ever saw her. I'm so happy. But also terribly nervous. But in a good way, said Hinata. Kurenai smiled. Naruto always did bring out the best in Hinata. Until then, I'll pick out a new outfit for you. Hinata was about to voice her protests when Kurenai cut her off. Don't worry, I'll make sure it's one that both you and Naruto like. Hinata blushed deeply, but there was also a smile on her face. Tenten grinned to herself. So far everything was going exactly as planned. Okay, now that we got drinking shakes covered, next we're going to cover what to do in a movie theater, said Tenten. You mean, well no, we can't go to the theater because I would need to speak and you can't talk during a movie. It's just not done, said Tenten. Then where are we going to do it? Asked Naruto. Yes, that was the million-dollar question for Tenten. It had to be someplace quiet and dark. Quiet because they needed as little interruptions as possible, dark because the movie theater would probably be pretty dark. Aha, that shed is perfect, said Tenten. The SS shed? Asked Naruto. Yeah, come on, said Tenten. She grabbed Naruto by the hand and dragged him over to the shed. So now Naruto was sitting in a shed, alone, in the dark, with Tenten, just the two of them. Tenten. Okay, now pretend we're at a movie theater and hold my hand. Said Tenten. What? Just do it, said Tenten. Naruto blushed as he placed his hand on top of hers. Good. Now if the girl likes you back she may do this, said Tenten. Tenten turned her hand on its back and laced her fingers with Naruto's. It was a good thing the shed was so dark, otherwise Tenten would have seen Naruto's blush deepen. Around the third date or so, if she wants, she'll let you put your arm around her shoulder. She demonstrated once again by wrapping his arm around her shoulder. Sometimes if the girl really likes you, she'll let you cop a feel, said Tenten. Tenten heard a loud thud. Naruto. Tenten looked at where Naruto's hand was and realized that she had accidentally gotten him to feel her left breast. Oops. Hinata was brought out of her daydreams of a date with Naruto when she heard a knock on the door. Come in, called Hinata. Hinata was surprised to see that her visitor was none other than her little sister. Hanabi-chan. What are you doing here? Asked Hinata. Father told me to come here and tell you that he along with the rest of the family are disappointed that you lost a member of the branch family, said Hanabi. Hinata's face fell. Her family always did know how to bring her down. Speaking of which, Hanabi-chan, I need for you to tell father something. Tell father that once I am released IW will be going on a date with Naruto. Hanabi rolled her eyes. Honestly, I don't see what you see him. He's such an idiot, said Hanabi. Hinata's mood started to sour. She may not be able to stand up for herself, but she would always be able to stand up for Naruto. That idiot, as you put it, is never afraid to be himself, and no matter how difficult something is, he never gives up. Can you say the same? Asked Hinata. Hanabi wasn't sure what to be more surprised about. The fact that her big sister stood up to her, or that she didn't stutter once. I want you to remember something, Hanabi. Today idiot may be tomorrow's Hokage, said Hinata. Hanabi left with a confused look on her face. Kin worked on dusting Naruto's and herself's new household. The blonde boy had earned much more than her respect in her eyes. To her, she realized that he was more than a shinobi, more than a demon container, even more than a werewolf. He was a hero. She personally thought that Konoha didn't deserve him. She would have been delighted if the two would start a new ninja village together. But that was his decision, not hers. And what else was that the man was forever determined to become Hokage. He was truly remarkable in her eyes. Naruto and Tenten arrived at her house. Now comes the last part. The goodbye kiss, said Tenten. She giggled as she saw Naruto's eye grow to the size of saucers. Tenten, is that you? Shouted her father. Tenten groaned. Why was it that parents always had the worst timing? Yes, Dad, shouted back Tenten. Tenten rolled her eyes and turned her attention back to Naruto. Now pucker up and. Tenten, did you remember to do your chores? Tenten growled. Can it wait? I'm kind of in the middle something. Now, young lady. Tenten stomped her foot. I'm sorry, but we're going to have to cut our lesson short, said Tenten. Oh, okay, said Naruto. A playful smile crossed Tenten's lips. But until then, she gave him a small peck on the cheek before running off. See you later, Naruto. He placed his hand on his cheek and slowly walked away. Told you she liked you, said Alu. I honestly didn't see that coming. Hanabi walked down the street with her big sister's words still in her head. Today's idiot may be tomorrow's Hokage. She turned a corner only to be hit by a ball in the back of her head. Sorry about that, called a voice. 3 children ran over to her. They were known as Undo, Konohamaru, and Moegi. Sorry, you just kind of popped up out of nowhere, said Konohamaru. Honestly, you need to watch where you're throwing the ball, said Moegi. Yeah, well, I've had a lot on my mind lately. It was true, his grandfather had been acting kind of odd lately. Truth was that Konohamaru was starting to grow worried. Who's your grandfather? Asked Hanabi. Curiosity had gotten the better of her. She just simply wished to know who his grandfather was, and then she'd be on her way. He's the Hokage, said Konohamaru. 0-0. Anyways, you want to play with us? Asked Konohamaru. Play? Yeah, you know. Konohamaru bounced the ball off her face once. Play. Hanabi repressed her anger for the moment. I don't know. Father always says that there isn't time for games. Said Hanabi. You can play with us if you want. Said Konohamaru. Why you would let me? You don't think I'm being a jerk? Asked Hanabi. Most children her age did often call her a jerk for one reason or another. Konohamaru scratched his head for a moment. Let me put it this way. If you want friends you have to be a friend. And I just think you deserve a fair shot, that's all. Said Konohamaru. Hanabi just stared at Konohamaru for a moment before her eyes started shining like stars. Of course to the others it looked like she had become furious. After a little incident with Sakura, the three had kind of been a little paranoid about angry women. Run for it, shouted Undo. The Konohamaru corps ran as fast as their little legs could carry them. She's still gaining on us, shouted Moegi. Konohamaru couldn't help but smile as they came to a three-way fork in the road. Split up, said Konohamaru. The three ran down the different paths, but Hanabi kept on Konohamaru. The grandson of the third Hokage quickly down into another alley only to find it a dead end. Oh no, he turned around only to see Hanabi at the other end. What is it you want from me? Asked Konohamaru. Hanabi nodded to herself as if finally come to a decision. It's settled, from this moment forward you're going to be my boyfriend. Said Hanabi. The confused boy merely looked at the Hyuga with a perplexed expression. Huh. Naruto yawned as he opened the door. Kin. I'm home, called Naruto. Naruto-sama, shouted Kin. In a short time Naruto found himself in the presence of a bowing woman. Kin, I thought we talked about this. No bowing until I'm Hokage. Said Naruto. But Naruto-sama, and stop calling me that. At the moment it's just Naruto. But Naruto-sama, enough. Now moving on, catch. Said Naruto. Kin caught a small little toad light that Naruto had tossed to her. It's a night light, this way you don't have to be afraid of the dark and come into my room for safety. Said Naruto. A lustful smile crossed her face. Why are you looking at me like that? Asked Naruto. Glomp. Oh, but what if I wanted to come into your room for another reason? She whispered into his ear, Naruto-sama. Naruto was getting redder and redder by the second. Somehow he had managed to slip out of her grasp and was making a run for the stairs. Well, would you look at the time? It's time for bed. Bye. Kin didn't think anyone could have run up those stairs at such a speed, but somehow Naruto managed to do just that. Oh well, I could always. And I'm locking the door, shouted Naruto. Kin snapped her fingers. Aw nuts. Omake. Temari was giving herself a nice cleaning in the hot springs. This was exactly what she needed to keep her mind off of a certain someone, not that she would ever admit it to anyone. 5-pronged seal reels. Something sent rocketing into the air, over the bamboo wall, and into the spring. A head popped up out of the water. This head belonged to the very boy she was trying to get mind off of. Stupid arrow Senin. You. Naruto turned around to see Temari as naked as the day she was born. She grabbed him roughly by his collar, bringing him face to face with the sand nin. You little pervert. You were trying to sneak a peek at me, weren't you? No, I wasn't, I swear. Don't you lie to me. You wanted to see me naked so you peeped. No, I didn't. I swear on my love of ramen I wasn't trying to see you naked. Well, why not? Shouted Temari. Naruto blinked in confusion. Excuse me, what? Is my body not good enough for you? Demanded Temari. You, body, naked, want, huh? Jiraiya blinked a couple of times as he saw Naruto approach. He looked as tired as hell. What happened to you? Asked Jiraiya. Somebody kept trying to pick my lock last night. Come again. Never mind. Look, what are you going to teach me today? It better be something good. Jiraiya had agreed to train him, but the places where they trained was starting to get on Naruto's nerves. When it wasn't by the bathhouses, it was by the waterfall where the women would play in their bikinis. Today it was the waterfall. Oh, seeing as how you are the son of my late student, I got you something very special. 2 summoning contracts. Naruto's face immediately brightened. 2. That's awesome. One is a toad contract and the other is something quite special. Now all you need to do is sign your name in the contracts with your own blood, and then below that you make a fingerprint impression with all of the fingers of one hand. Said Jiraiya. As Naruto started to sign the first contract, Toad's Alu started to speak to him. Why, that no good lazy ass. He just wants to teach you how to use Kyuubi's chakra. But what he doesn't know is that Kyuubi Baka here doesn't want to lend you any without it corrupting you. Let's teach him a lesson. Suddenly Naruto felt a different kind of chakra overcoming him. Unlike Kyuubi's chakra, this one felt more silky. Do it now, shouted Alu. Kuchio's no jutsu. In a huge puff of smoke, the toad boss Gamabunta appeared. Crap, he summoned Gamabunta on his first try, shouted Jiraiya. The women who were splashing around quickly ran out of the water screaming their heads off. No, the pretty girls. Gamabunta looked around. Where am I? Jiraiya, why did you summon me? If it was because you were trying to impress some women again, I'm going to. It wasn't him that summoned you, it was me, said Naruto. Huh. Gamabunta looked up to the top of his head and saw everyone's favorite genin. Jiraiya, why did you put a kid on my head? I didn't, I swear. The kid really did summon you. He's Minato's kid. Huh, Minato's kid. Gamabunta picked Naruto off of his head and brought him in front of his face, hanging in midair. The giant toad squinted his eyes at Naruto. Naruto felt a bit uneasy under Gamabunta's gaze. I suppose I could give you the benefit of the doubt, seeing as how you're Minato's son, but you're still going to have to pass a little test. A test? Like what? You have to stay on my back until sundown. But it's already so early in the morning. Fine. Noon then. Gamabunta put Naruto on his back. However, this was when Naruto began to notice something. Hey, where's Ero Sennin going? He probably doesn't want to get stomped on. Stomped on? What's that supposed to mean? Naruto got his answer as Gamabunta suddenly leapt into the air. The test had begun. Kurenai walked into Hinata's room at the hospital to find her staring out the window. Good news, Hinata. I've talked to the doctors and you will be released early tomorrow, said Kurenai. That's wonderful. And I also bought you this, said Kurenai. She pulled out a light blue dress that promised to hug the wearer's figure. Hinata eeped fell to her left. I can't wear that. I'll die if Naruto sees me in that. Hinata, you have a very lovely figure for someone your age, there's no shame in letting it be known, said Kurenai. But, you have to stop hiding yourself in your jacket. You are a ninja, not turtle, there's a difference. Not as though the two could ever coexist. Kurenai saw that Hinata still had her doubts. Maybe this called for a change in tactics. Look, I'm pretty sure Naruto will like you in this dress. I mean, you do want to look your best for Naruto, right? Hinata blushed. Hook, line, and sinker. Both Naruto and the giant toad were panting out of breath. Give up yet? Never. I never give up and I never back down, that's my ninja way. Gamabunta looked up to see the sun directly overhead. Well, it appears you've won our little wager. I'll allow for you to be my summoner from now on. In a giant puff of smoke, Gamabunta disappeared, leaving Naruto in midair. Well, this can't be good. As Naruto started to fall to the ground, he let out a, "Curse you, gravity." Before making friends with the dirt, Naruko was making his students run laps around the track outside, but something was troubling him. Konohamaru had been acting strange all day. Not only had he gotten pale, but the poor boy was just plain jumpy. Konohamaru, come over here for a moment, called Naruto. Konohamaru did as he was told, with his friends disappointed to see him go. I didn't do it. No, Konohamaru, you're not in trouble. I just wanted to ask if there is anything troubling you lately. You haven't been acting like yourself today, said Naruto. Of course something is troubling me. Hanabi says I have to be her boyfriend from now on, shouted Konohamaru. Out of all the answers Naruto was expecting, this certainly wasn't one of them. Looks like we may have to talk with her father about this. I just hope I can get someone to watch the students for me. Uruka suddenly heard a bush rustle from behind him and threw a kunai towards it. Something dodged the kunai and jumped out of the bush. Hana, what are you doing here? Asked Uruka. Well, every chunin has to work at the academy at some time or another. So I came by and almost lost a toe thanks to you. Said Hana. Sorry. Reflex. Listen, can I ask you for a favor? Asked Uruka. Favors were good. Favors led to trust. Favors give leverage. Sure. What do you need? Asked Hana. Me and Konohamaru need to go over to the Hyuga estate. Could you watch my class for me? Asked Uruka. Hana smiled. But of course. You can count on me. Thanks. I owe you one. Hana's smile turned into a playful smirk. Yes, Uruka, you do. Uruka let some steam out of his shirt through his collar. Let's go, Konohamaru, said Uruka. But I don't want to go to the place where the crazy girl lives. Uruka dragged a screaming and kicking Konohamaru away, leaving Hana with her new students. Okay. Students, how many of you like dogs? Hana's own 3 dogs came out of the bushes and started to play with the children. This will definitely earn me some points with him. Naruto awoke to see Jiraiya leaning over him. Now if only the toad sage would stop spinning, he would be set. Naruto, how many fingers do you see? Asked Jiraiya. Jiraiya was holding up 2 fingers, but that wasn't how it looked to Naruto. 8. Jiraiya stared at his 2 fingers and then looked down at Naruto. That fall must have rattled your brain. I'll be fine as soon as my werewolf regeneration kicks in. Now what's the other summoning contract too? Asked Naruto. Only werewolves can sign that contract. I know this because I tried to sign it once and, well, let's just say I'm lucky I still have all 5 fingers. Well, then it sounds like it's worth a shot. Jiraiya tossed Naruto the scroll to Naruto. As Naruto immediately got to work, he failed to notice Jiraiya slowly sneaking away from him. There. Finished. Alright, Alu, one more time. Got to speak to the summoning boss of whatever this thing summons. Okay, but brace yourself. I've seen what these guys can do and it ain't pretty. Kuchio's no jutsu. Another giant cloud of smoke appeared. Naruto wasn't sure what he just summoned, but it felt like he was hanging off its nose or something. The smoke started to disappear, revealing a giant wolf of some kind, with Naruto clinging to his nose. Where the hell am I? What's hanging off my nose? It doesn't feel like a booger. I'm not a booger. I summoned you, shouted Naruto. Wait a minute. The wolf started to sniff Naruto for a moment. For a second, Naruto was afraid he was going to end up in his nose. You kind of smell like Minato, but you also have the scent of that woman that was always bashing about and shouting around him. Hang on a second, shouted Naruto. Naruto struggled to climb until he reached the top of the wolf's nose. I'm Minato's son, Naruto Uzumaki. Believe it, said Naruto. Figures, only a werewolf could sign that contract. So what are you exactly? A wolf boss? Asked Naruto. I am the dire wolf boss, Lupine. And if you truly wish to be my summoner, then you must pass my test. Oh really? Well, I passed Gamabunta's test. He had me riding on his back till noon. So you passed my old friend Gamabunta's test, huh? Well, I think you'll find my test a little different. You see, for my test you must avoid being eaten by myself for 5 housers. Hey, you're joking, right? Lupine started to growl. You're not joking. Better start running. Well, Hiyashi-sama, you're probably wondering what me and Konohamaru are doing here, started Uruka. I can only assume it has something to do with my daughter Hinata. Uruka sipped his tea. Actually this has to do with your other daughter, Hanabi. Hanabi, are you sure? Asked Hiyashi. Yeah, she's the crazy one, shouted Konohamaru. Konohamaru, please, said Uruka. Alright Uruka, what is this all about? Asked Hiyashi, putting his tea down. Well, it appears that it's my boyfriend. No sooner than those words were shouted, Konohamaru got bowled over by his self-appointed girlfriend Hanabi. Hanabi, what is the meaning of this? Asked Hiyashi. Hanabi stopped hugging Konohamaru for a moment to look at her father. Well, father, I figured it was about time for me to have a boyfriend. And if it had to be anyone, why not someone you would approve of like the grandson of the Hokage? Asked Hanabi. Hanabi, that is not the point. You are too young to have a boyfriend. Said Hiashi. But father, I think he's my first crush. Said Hanabi. Hanabi, hey, where'd he go? Asked Hiashi. Hanabi blinked a couple of times as she realized that the boy she had been hugging had somehow managed to slip from her grasp. Konohamaru was in the meantime running as fast as his little legs could take him. Legs don't fail me now, shouted Konohamaru. Hanabi activated her Byakugan. You can run but you can't hide, shouted Hanabi. Hiashi shook his head. For now I will allow Hinata to do as she wishes. I think I have a bigger problem with my second daughter, said Hiashi. Naruto was in his full beast form running as fast as his 4 legs could carry him. Lupine was pretty quick, even for a dire wolf boss. Naruto narrowly avoided another snap from Lupine, but the tree he had leapt away from was snapped in two. Don't give up, do you? Asked Naruto. I'm very picky about who I allow to summon me. Even if they are werewolves, I only allow the best of the best to summon me. Well, then I'm just going to have to avoid being eaten. Believe it, said Naruto. Lupine dove once again into the forest, only this time he did end up with Naruto in his mouth. Problem was Naruto was now in his hybrid form and had 2 of Lupin's fangs in his hands, trying desperately to keep the mouth open. I'm not going to let this stop me. Just when Naruto thought it was over, Lupine spat him out. Huh, but you said, time's up, I'm afraid, and since you technically weren't in my stomach, I guess you win. The werewolf's eyes lit up. Seriously? You mean it? Lupine smirked. Believe it. Lupine disappeared in a giant puff of smoke. Naruto started to change back to normal. I need a soak. Ino enjoyed herself in the hot spring, giving herself a good cleaning. After a hard day in the flower shop, she decided that she needed this, especially after a little bee incident. This was always her favorite hot spring because there was a little secret about it that only she knew. The bamboo wall that separated the men's and women's side of the bath had a hole in it covered by a wood knot. Best part was that it was removable. Back when she still had feelings for Sasuke, she had often hoped that he would come to this very spring and she could get a glimpse of him. But now, man, did I need this. That sounded like Naruto, thought Ino. Ino pulled the wood knot out of the hole and saw Naruto taking a soak in the water. The lower half of him was covered by steam and water. Yep, that's Naruto all right. I should probably stop staring at him now. Yes sir, any minute now I'm going to stop. What felt like 5 minutes to Ino was really half an hour, because she found herself no longer alone in women's half. Ino jumped 5 feet into the air at Sakura's sudden appearance. She fumbled with the wood knot for a moment before putting it back into its place. Sakura, what are you doing here? Asked Ino. I came here for a bath. Were you trying to peep on the men's side? No, said Ino a little too quickly. You know what, I'm ready to get out, so I'll just see you later, Sakura. Meanwhile, with Kyuubi and Alu. You wolves are so annoying, why can't you be more like us foxes? Actually, Kyuubi, foxes are a step down from wolves. Wolves are bigger, stronger, and faster. Fact of the matter is that you foxes were never that great to begin with, but now they have simply gone downhill. Said Alu. What? It's true. You're more likely to be found in a garbage dump than a forest. What? I guess they just think it's a better source of food. And don't even get me started on kitsunes. Why? What's happened to kitsunes? Basically, they changed into yodeling, banjo playing, cousin kissing hillbillies. Let me out of this. $$ cage so I can teach those and dollar hash. Kitsunes what it means to be an hashin. Fox. Such language, said Alu with fake shock. Naruto was once again in his full beast form in the forest, howling at the moon. Think how Link howls in Twilight Princess. He had been told earlier that day that his date with Hinata had been moved to tomorrow. He came to the forest to try to clear his head, and howling at the moon seemed to help. Suddenly Naruto started to sniff the air. He had picked up a scent, he knew this scent. "You can come out now, Hinata," said Naruto. Hinata came out from behind a tree with a blushing that she had been caught. How did you know it was me?" asked Hinata. "I caught your scent. I'd recognize it anywhere," said Naruto. Hinata's blush deepened. "So our date is tomorrow, huh?" asked Naruto. Hinata blushed even deeper. "Why yes. I'm looking forward to it," said Hinata. An odd silence passed between the two. Hinata decided that maybe now would be a good time to change the subject. "Why you don't look quite the same as last time," said Hinata. "Oh, this is my full beast form. I think my howling is much better when I'm like this. But I'll stop doing that at the moment if you want," said Naruto. "Why you don't have to do that? I liked it," said Hinata. "You did?" Hinata nodded shyly. Would you like to hear more?" asked Naruto. I'd like that." Naruto grinned and started howling again. Hinata sat on the ground enjoying Naruto's howling. It was almost as if Naruto was filling the night sky with a song that only he understood. Naruto soon stopped and looked at Hinata. "Would you like to go for a ride?" asked Naruto. What? Would you like to go for a ride on my back?" asked Naruto. Are you sure it's alright?" asked Hinata. "Sure, just hop on." Naruto knelt down and let Hinata climb on. "Hold on tightly now," said Naruto. Hinata did as she was told, and in a second she was almost blown away at the force of the speed Naruto was going at. She had to admit she did enjoy holding on to his fur. It felt soft and silky, like something she would sleep on like a pillow. But at the moment sleep was the last thing on her mind. Trees and bushes seemed to fly by in a blur. It was almost enough to make one dizzy. But fear was soon crossed Hinata's face as she saw where Naruto was running to. "Naruto-kun, we're heading straight for that canyon," said Hinata. "Yeah, I know, isn't it great?" shouted Naruto. Hinata whimpered and buried her face into Naruto's fur. For a moment a feeling of weightlessness crossed over Hinata. She looked down of Naruto's right side to see the canyon below. Naruto was trying to jump the canyon. What was more impressive was that he was actually succeeding. "Naruto-kun, this is amazing. It's almost like you're flying." Naruto replied by giving her his trademark grin. He landed on the other side and let Hinata off before collapsing on the ground, panting out of breath. "Now that's speed. I'll take you back as soon as I catch my breath." Hinata walked over and started to pet his neck. "Take as much time as you need." But Naruto didn't seem to reply. Naruto-kun. Z's. Naruto had fallen asleep. He was too tired to stay awake, so it looked like Hinata would have to wait until he woke up for him to take her back. Naruto groggily woke up to find that Hinata was sleeping on his torso. But what was even more surprising was that he had been curled around her almost protectively. He looked up to the sky and saw that it was morning. Oops. Iruka paced about, worried sick that he couldn't find Naruto anywhere. "Calm down, Iruka. I'm sure Naruto will show up, although it is a bit of a wonder that Hinata is missing too," said Kurenai. "But where could he be? He knew that the double date was today," said Iruka. Before Iruka was about to continue his constant pacing when the very 12-year-olds they were looking for walked up to them. "Where were you two?" asked Iruka. On second thought, forget it. Now come on, Naruto, we got a lot to do before the date," said Iruka. Iruka dragged Naruto off by his shirt, leaving a worried Hinata behind. "Don't worry about them. Iruka just needs to get Naruto ready. Speaking of which, why don't we show Naruto your new dress?" asked Hinata. Hinata smiled with a blush. Iruka had dropped Naruto off at his house to pick up the outfit he had bought for him. Naruto opened the door only to be immediately tackled to the ground by Kin. "Where were you? I was so worried when you didn't come home last night," said Kin. "Oh well, you see, I was out with Hinata all night." That didn't come out the way it was supposed to." "What?" Kin started to shake him violently. "You were supposed to lose your virginity to me," shouted Kin. "Say what now?" asked Naruto. Kin blushed atomic red and leapt off of Naruto. I was supposed to keep that one to myself. Yeah, I'm just going to pretend I didn't hear any of that. Look, Kin, I was just running with Hinata in the forest, tuckered myself out, took a rest but accidentally ended up sleeping there, that's all. Said Naruto. I apologize, Naruto-sama. I should have let you explain. Said Kin. Oh, don't worry about it. Oh no, I couldn't do that. In an instant, Kin was about an inch away from Naruto's face. I simply must make it up to you. Naruto swallowed a lump in his throat and let some steam out of his top by pulling his collar. Oh well, would you look at the time. I need to go and get dressed for my date. Naruto ran into the room next door and immediately locked it. It didn't take long for Kin to start knocking on the door. Oh come on, Naruto-sama. At least let me watch you change. Shouted Kin. No. Naruto walked over to Kurenai. Iruka and Hinata wore a yellow shirt along with yellow dress pants. Well, I had to leave through the window, but I'm here. Said Naruto. Why did you have to leave through the window? Asked Iruka. I don't want to talk about it. Said Naruto. It was at this time that Naruto actually noticed the outfit Hinata was wearing. She wore a light blue dress that had orange stars decorating the rim of the bottom. A small blush crossed Naruto's face. Kurenai cleared her throat, snapping Naruto back to reality. Well, now that we're all present and accounted for, why don't we make our way to the movies? Kurenai hooked her arm around Iruka's before turning her head towards Naruto and Hinata. I suggest that the two of you follow our example. Naruto held out his arm, letting Hinata hook her own around his. Admittedly, she was blushing harder now. As they started to walk, Naruto felt the urge that he should probably start up a conversation. So, you look nice tonight. Thank you. This dress was chosen just for our date. Said Hinata. Really? Suddenly a pair of snakes shot out from the shadows, wrapped themselves around Iruka, and pulled him into the alley from whence they came. Iruka-sensei! Shouted Naruto. Naruto was about to leap into action but was cut off when Kurenai put out hand in front of him, blocking his path. He's fine, trust me. That's just an old friend that needs to talk to him. Said Kurenai. Naruto looked skeptical for a moment but decided to let it pass. Yeah, sure, whatever. Said Naruto. Now come on, or else we'll miss the movie. I'm sure Iruka will catch up. Naruto shrugged. As long as Iruka was okay, there was nothing to supposedly worry about. Iruka was slammed against the brick wall roughly. A fear like he had never known had swept through his body. He was trapped with no hope of escape. Hello, Iruka-kun. Now I know you're a little bit angry with me. But you see, Anko-san, I just never got the chance to tell you about my little double date with Kurenai. Anko paused in thought for a moment. Very well, Iruka. I'll let you continue your date with Kurenai, but keep in mind, once the Chunin exam is over, then you will take me for our date. Get it? Got it. Good. Who knows, maybe when our date comes you'll get a reward for being a good boy. Said Anko with a wink. Iruka blushed furiously. As the Junin and two Genins continued walking until Naruto looked in the direction of the shout to see Temari with her jaw hanging open. Excuse me for just 1 second. Said Naruto. Naruto walked over to Temari and snapped his fingers a couple of times in front of her face, snapping her out of shock. What are you doing with that girl? Demanded Temari. I'm taking her out on a date. Said Naruto. Temari seemed frozen in place for a moment, not moving an inch. Temari. She remained unmoving. Temari, are you okay? A furious expression crossed Temari's face. Me. Of course, I'm fine. Why wouldn't I be? I'm so happy for you. Shouted Temari. What's wrong, Temari? Why are you yelling at M? Wait, are you jealous? Asked Naruto. Jealous? Why would I be jealous? You can make out with her till the cows come home. See if I care. Shouted Temari. Naruto fell backwards from the force of Temari's yell. Naruto couldn't help but feel confused. I swear I will never figure that woman out. Iruka ran to the theater to find Kurenai waiting for him with her foot tapping impatiently. It's about time. Naruto and Hinata are already enjoying the movie. Uruka laughed sheepishly. Sorry about that, let's go. Inside they saw that the movie about the Snow Princess had already started. Uruka was about to walk over to his seat when Kurenai suddenly stopped him. Wait, look, she said pointing to the genins. Poor Hinata was shaking like a leaf out of nervousness. Naruto placed his hand upon hers not to make a move but to calm her down. Hinata's head snapped towards Naruto the instant his hand touched her flesh. I'm nervous too, said Naruto. Remarkably enough, Hinata stopped shaking and smiled at Naruto. Naruto squeezed her fingers, earning a squeeze back. Ah, isn't that cute? I guess we can watch the movie from here, said Kurenai. Uruka and Kurenai took a seat and started to enjoy the movie. Halfway through, they both held each other's hands at the same time. Once the movie was over, the four ninjas were about to head over to Ichiraku's when a chain shot out of the alley, wrapped itself around Naruto's legs and dragged him into the shadows. That's been happening a lot lately, said Kurenai. Uruka noticed the clearly worried Hinata and placed a hand on her shoulder. Don't worry, that's just Tenten. I'd recognize that chain anywhere. Flashback. A chain shattered a bullseye target, earning a sweat drop from Uruka. That was very good, Tenten, but you're supposed to be throwing kunais. But chains are cooler than kunais. Uruka's sweat dropped. End flashback. She always was a bit odd. Sarutobi poured a purple liquid onto his concoction, causing a puff of smoke to show that his experiment was a success. Now all I have to do is wait until tomorrow. Sarutobi fell into his chair only to have sleep overtake him. Naruto walked out of the alley rubbing his butt. Everything all right? Asked Kurenai. Yeah, Tenten just wanted to set up a date with me a week after the Chunin exams are over, and she pinched my butt, said Naruto. Hinata gasped. She never thought that she would ever actually have competition. Was it possible she didn't have a chance? Naruto suddenly grabbed Hinata's wrist and started running. Come on, Hinata. It's ramen time and it's going to be the grown-ups' treat, shouted Naruto. Maybe she did stand a chance. Oh, this isn't good, said Uruka. Why, it's just ramen, said Kurenai. Yeah, but you don't know Naruto and ramen. Nothing can stop him, said Uruka. Naruto ran with Hinata barely keeping up. They almost stumbled upon each other when they finally got in the stand. Hey old man, one miso ramen. He and his daughter looked up from their cooking to see Naruto and Hinata sitting at the stools waiting patiently. What are you two on, some kind of date? Asked Ayame. Actually, yes, said Naruto. Well then I have a special bowl just for the occasion, said Ayame. Soon the old man handed them a big bowl with heart decorations. That's for you two to share, by the way. I expect for you two to feed each other. It is a date after all, said Ayame. Naruto and Hinata complied but did so while blushing furiously. Kurenai and Uruka entered and saw the bowl Hinata and Naruto were eating out of. Any chance you got a second one of those? Asked Kurenai. Coming right up. Uruka pulled out a chair for Kurenai. Oh, thank you, Uruka. Soon Kurenai and Uruka were mimicking Naruto and Hinata by feeding each other also. This isn't too bad, thought Naruto. One of the flaps was opened by Ino, and needless to say she was surprised to see Naruto and Hinata feeding each other in such a romantic manner. Her jaw dropped, keeping her frozen in place. Naruto suddenly felt her presence and turned to her. Oh, hey Ino, said Naruto. Naruto, are you two on a date? Asked Ino. Is that really so hard to believe? Asked Naruto. Well, no, I guess not, said Ino. However, she muttered under her breath, not now anyways. Hinata, you're enjoying yourself, aren't you? Asked Naruto. Yes, of course I am, said Hinata. She quickly muttered under her breath, as long as I'm with you. See, we're having a great time. In fact, I don't think I would mind going on another one, said Naruto. Thud. Naruto looked down to see that Hinata had fallen over with a very red face. Her eyes had been turned into swirls, but her smile easily distracted one from them. However, Naruto thought that Hinata was perhaps having a relapse. Keep with me, Hinata, shouted Naruto. Ino frowned at how much of a fuss Naruto was showing over Hinata. She quietly left to head back home. Why do I feel so depressed? Hinata almost felt depressed at her date with Naruto, but it was starting to get late and all good things must come to an end. However, for some reason Naruto kept smiling at her. What? I underestimated you, Hinata. I based you off of what I originally thought of you, but you proved me wrong. You know what, Hinata? I like people like you, because you showed me just how much fun I can have with someone like you. Hinata blushed so hard she swore that it was lighting up the evening sky. They finally arrived at the Hyuga mansion, hearing the head of the Hyuga family constant protests to his second daughter. For the last time, Hanabi, you must give Konohamaru his goggles back. But it's mine now. Well, you too, you'd better end the date and kiss already before anything gets worse with Hiyashi and Hanabi. Kiss. Don't you two know? All dates end with kisses at the girl's house, said Iruka. It's tradition, said Kurenai. Both genins blushed as they puckered their lips and slowly started to move towards each other. They were both shaking with nervousness but still moving towards each other. An anger vein appeared on Kurenai's head. Oh, for pity's sake, said Kurenai. She gave a hard kick to Naruto's back, launching him forward. The force of the impact made Naruto's lips embrace Hinata's, accidentally sliding his tongue inside her mouth. A full-body atomic blush covered both of them. They broke apart, but the full-body blush was still in effect. They averted their eyes from each other, both clearly embarrassed. I had fun tonight, and I hope you come tomorrow to see me kick Neji's ass, said Naruto. I will. I know you'll probably fare better than I did. Sometimes it feels like I can't do anything right, said Hinata. Naruto frowned upon hearing this. He saw how great Hinata was. Why didn't she? Ya know, Hinata, I believe in you. Maybe you should do the same sometime. Hinata gave a shy smile and nodded before going inside. Hinata closed the door behind her, leaning it with the most content smile she had since her mother was still alive. Not only had he given her some honest-to-goodness advice that she planned on taking seriously, but he had even kissed her with tongue, sort of. Hanabi, who was trying to stay away from her father to keep the goggles Konohamaru had given her. Oh, you're back. How was your date? It was wonderful, Hanabi, said Hinata. Oh well, that's. Hey, you're not stuttering, said Hanabi. I'm not. Well, what do you know? Well then, I guess all that's left is to drop me off at me home, said Kurenai. Alright then, let's go. You can go home now, Naruto, said Iruka. Well, okay, I guess, said Naruto. So as Naruto headed back towards his house, Iruka escorted Kurenai, talking about missions and students and other type of shinobi stuff. When they finally reached Kurenai's apartment, she grabbed Iruka by his chunin vest and pulled him in for a deep, passionate kiss. When it ended, Iruka rubbed the back of his neck, blushing. I guess the date is over now, huh? Asked Iruka. An odd smile crossed her lips. I wouldn't say that, said Kurenai. She suddenly yanked him inside her apartment by his chunin vest. Naruto entered his house to find it surprisingly empty. Honestly, he was kind of expecting Kin to tackle him or something, but instead there was nothing. Kin, I'm home. Guess she went to bed. Shrugging his shoulders, he got into his pajamas, nightcap included, and headed up to his room. Spotting his bed, Naruto collapsed face first onto the mattress. But something didn't feel right. His bed was all lumpy. It was never lumpy. I got a bad feeling about this. He got off of bed and pulled the blankets off. There he saw Kin as naked as the day she was born, smiling at him. KKKK Kin. Hello Naruto-sama. Why are you naked? Well, I couldn't let Hinata one-up me. Kin glomped her naked body onto Naruto's. Now show me how much of a wolf you are. Naruto gently pulled her off him, seemingly staring off into space. Kin, I am going to run, she frowned. And I am going to keep running, and when I come back, I expect you to be fully clothed. Naruto ran through the wall, leaving a Naruto-like hole in its place. Ah poo. She looked down and saw a drop of blood on the floor. This wasn't the type of blood one got from a wound, this was something that came from the nose. Yes. It isn't much but it's a start. Ino sat on her bed hugging her knees feeling depressed for reasons she did not know why. She was just fine until she saw Naruto with Hinata, which was suddenly when she felt like her stomach was full of lead. She heard a knock on her door and knew it was her mother checking up on her. Ino, honey, don't you think you should be getting ready to watch the Chunin exams? Not hearing a reply, she merely opened the door. She frowned when she saw the state Ino was in. Ino, is everything alright? I don't know, Mom, I'm feeling confused, said Ino. About what? Well, you see, there's this boy. Ooh. Mom, please, it's not like that, or at least, I don't think it is, said Ino. Want to talk about it? Okay. The thing is, I've never saw my friend as anything more than just that. And before he started being nice to me, I used to think even less of him. But once I saw him on a date with someone else, it felt like something in my chest sunk right down to my stomach, said Ino. Well, Ino, it sounds to me as though you've developed feelings for this boy. All the blood seemed to drain from Ino's face. No, not Naruto. And why not? Well, because he's Naruto, protested Ino. So he's Naruto. Ino, the heart wants what the heart wants. Well, maybe it only wants his body, said Ino. Huh, yeah, that makes sense. He has won the buffest bods I've ever seen. All I have to do is have a little self-control and I'll be fine. Thanks, Mom, now I have to leave before the Chunin exams start, said Ino. As Ino leapt out the window, her mother shook her head in despair. She started to walk down the stairs. She came across her husband. Babe, where are you going? He asked. To find a book on what to do when mother-daughter talks go array. Sarutobi sighed. Sasuke had yet to show up and he was beginning to wonder if Kakashi had been a bad influence on him. However, he was snapped out of his musings by the presence of the Kazekage. Ah, Kazekage-sama, you must be tired from your long journey. Oh no, I was happy to make the journey. Of course, you're still hale and hearty, but the voyage might have been a bit harder on you, Hokage-sama. Perhaps you ought to choose your successor soon. Ha ha, well, don't bury me yet. I hope to continue here for another 5 years, at least, said Sarutobi. However, I must ask, what is that bag that you have hanging around your waist? Sarutobi patted the bag confidently. Just a little reassurance. Well then, I guess we ought to begin. Sarutobi stood up and walked to the railing. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, welcome and heartfelt thanks for gathering here in Konohagakure for the Chunin selection examination. Please sit back and enjoy. Before we begin, I have a few announcements. Look here. Genma pulled out the fight chart. There have been a few last-minute changes. Look again and confirm your assigned opponent. I was down for an extra match, but did that Dosu guy withdraw? Thought Shikamaru. Hey, what's going to happen since Sasuke hasn't shown up yet? Asked Naruto. If he doesn't arrive by the start of his own match, he'll lose by forfeit, said Genma. I hope Sasuke isn't starting to turn into Kakashi-sensei, thought Naruto. Listen up, all of you. This is the last exam. The landscape may be different, but just as with the prelims, there are no set rules. You fight until one of you dies or admits defeat, unless I determine that a clear winner has already been decided, in which case I'll stop the match before anyone's killed. Understand? Asked Genma. Naruto was only half listening to the proctor. He was too busy glaring at Neji, who was returning his glare. You two stay down here, the rest of you proceed to the waiting room outside the arena. As everybody else left, Neji smirked at Naruto. You got something to say? Asked Neji. I've said this once before. Naruto thrusted his fist forward. I vow to win. Neji activated his Byakugan. He has absolute faith in himself, as if he hasn't got a single doubt. Now then, match 1. Begin. Neji got into a defensive stance. Ho ho, it's more fun this way anyways. I can't wait to see the despair in your eyes when the truth finally dawns on you. Bring it on. Naruto awoke with a yawn and looked at his surroundings and started to pale. He certainly wasn't in his own apartment, and what's more, he was completely naked. He looked around and spotted Kurenai. Kurenai, what, when, did, huh? Yep, we did the nasty last night. You were better than I thought. Naruto was speechless. Now you'd better hurry and get dressed. Chunin exams have already begun and I don't want to miss Shino's match, plus your students are probably waiting for you. Naruto had tried a straight-out attack, but all that did was end him up flat on his butt. Alright, let's see how you like this. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. 4 clones appeared around Naruto ready for a fight. Neji looked at the clones with his Byakugan and his brow furrowed. I see. Since his chakra is equally and evenly distributed among all of the doppelgangers, even my Byakugan won't be able to tell me which of the bodies is the genuine article. But in the end, there is only one actual body. Don't get cocky. Then come at me then. All 5 Narutos charged towards Neji, who promptly used 2 of the Naruto's heads as a springboard to leap over them, performed a spin and kicked 2 of the other Narutos in the head. He landed and elbowed 2 charging clones in the chin, spun yet again, and thrust his palms into their stomachs, sending them flying. Now that the 4 clones had poofed away, causing the original Naruto to grumble. So you want to be Hokage, huh? I don't think that's going to happen. I can pretty much tell, with these eyes of mine, abilities and talent determined at birth. In other words, your entire destiny is set from the moment you're born. Why are you so stubborn? You're always so sure that the future is full of doom and gloom, why? Well, are you saying that anyone can become Hokage, if they just try hard enough? Only a select few shinobi are even considered for Hokage. Wake up and face reality. Those who will become Hokage are born with that fate. You can't get there by trying, you have to be pre-selected. Each person's life consists only of being swept along in the inescapable current of his destiny. All of us have only one thing in common, one shared fate, death. My God, do you ever shut up? To say that Neji was surprised by Naruto's little outburst would have been an understatement. He was expecting a lot of reactions, but frustration wasn't one of them. So you think fate has automatically determined that I'm supposed to lose to you, huh? So if I do beat you, then maybe you'll admit that everyone has the ability to determine their own fate, right? Yes, but that would have to mean that you would actually have the ability to beat me first. Alright then. He bit his thumb and slammed it onto the ground, Kuchio's no Jutsu. However, since he didn't use as much chakra as he did for Gamabunta or Lupine, he didn't get a boss. When the smoke cleared, an armored dire wolf stood looking as though he were ready for war. For a moment he seemed confused as to how he got there until he spotted Naruto. Oh, it's you. Pops told me you were able to summon him, but I didn't think it was true. Guess I should have listened to him. I'm one of his many offspring, Lunar. Wow, you're Lupine's son. Well, right now I need to beat the crap out of that guy over there, said Naruto. Surprisingly enough, Neji started to laugh. Hey, just what's so funny, huh? I can't believe how stupid you are. Summoning a wolf that much armor won't be able to even move, let alone attack me. His armor, while the wolf head decorations and spikes does give it a cool look, is too heavy for him to get me. Quite a foolish move. Okay, that does it. Nobody insults the armor. Lunar held his head back and let out a blood-curdling howl. At least one of us got to do that, said Naruto. Yeah, howling is fun, but I digress. In a blink the dire wolf rushed towards Neji and bit his leg. But he didn't stop there. No, he ran with Neji's leg in his mouth. Lunar picked up some more speed and started to run along the inside wall. Lunar kept running with him until he reached the proper speed he had apparently been waiting for and threw Neji into a tree. Lunar smirked at Naruto. And that's why I consider myself, Sun-1 foot. As the smoke cleared, Neji struggled to get up. In all accounts he had been very lucky. The strange wolf had only bitten deep enough to carry him, even though it still hurt like a bitch. What was even luckier that he hadn't broken his back when he had crashed into that tree. I admit, your mongrel caught me off guard. But I seriously doubt you'd be able to prove me wrong about fate with him fighting your battles for you," said Neji. Lunar and Naruto looked at each other for a moment. You know, I hate to admit it, but he has a point. Lunar knocked away a rock with his paw. Ah, poodle meat, and here I was hoping to eat him. Both Neji and Naruto's sweat dropped at that. Lunar disappeared in a puff of smoke, completely disappointed at such a short visit. Neji grinned inwardly. If he had to fight that odd wolf instead of Naruto, then he would have been in real trouble. Neji shifted back into his stance. Now then, I believe I was kicking your butt. An anger vein appeared on Neji's head when he noticed Naruto wasn't even paying attention to him. He appeared to be staring at the Hokage monument. Hey, pay attention, shouted Neji. Oh, I'm sorry, I was just thinking about the fourth. Did you know that some of his most dangerous jutsus were the ones he came up with himself? So I've decided to follow in his footsteps. Naruto sped through a series of hand signs. Explosion tag shurikens. Explosion tags shot out of Naruto's pouch and flew towards Neji. Kaden. Neji covered himself in a chakra whirlwind, causing a huge explosion covered the entire field. When the dust settled, Naruto looked worse for wear, but Neji looked as if he hadn't even been caught in the explosion. Oh man, it took me so long to develop that jutsu, and when I finally get to use it, he cancels it out. Oh well, time to get some answers. Why? Because I didn't want to explode. No, not that. I mean, you're so strong, and you act like you know everything. And when you were up against Hinata, who was fighting so hard, you played those horrible mind games with her. That's none of your business. Think so? You mocked Hinata, calling her a failure and claiming you could see her fate. Main branch, cadet branch, I don't know anything about that stuff, but I could never forgive a jerk who goes around calling people failures. Alright, since you insist, I'll tell you about the hateful legacy of the Hyuga clan. Now maybe I'll get some answers. One day when I was 4 years old, this abominable mark was branded onto my forehead using the curse mark jutsu. That day, a grand celebration was being thrown in Konoha. There was a lavish ceremony in honor of the shinobi ruler of the land of clouds. Konoha had long waged war against his nation, but he had come to sign a pact of alliance. Every shinobi in Konoha from Genin to Jonin was in attendance except for one family which was noticeably absent. It was the Hyuga clan. Coincidentally, that day was also the day that the main branch's heir turned 3. Your girlfriend, Hinata. Naruto failed at hiding a blush. Not my girlfriend. She's close enough. But back to the subject at hand. My father and Hinata-sama's father over there, Hisashi Hyuga and Lord Hiashi Hyuga, were twin brothers. However, Hinata-sama's father entered the world first, and thus was eldest son, and member of the main branch. While my father, as second son, was relegated to the cadet branch. Why did they have to do that? Splitting into main branch and cadet branch, what is it for? And what does that weird mark mean? Asked Naruto. This mark on my forehead is no decoration. This curse mark signifies an absolute threat of death imposed by the main branch upon the cadet branch. The secret techniques of the main branch can easily destroy the minds of those of the cadet branch, so of course, killing us is a simple task. And this curse mark only fades after death, after the secret of the Byakugan has been sealed away. The Hyuga clan possesses one of the most distinguished Kekkei Genkai. Countless numbers of people would do anything to gain the secret of such unique abilities. So this curse mark was created to ensure that the cadet branch would live for one purpose only, to serve and shield the main branch and never disobey them, and to eternally protect the Byakugan, the bloodline trait of the Hyuga clan. It's a brilliant, efficient setup. Naruto couldn't believe what he was hearing. How could somebody do that to their own family? And then the incident occurred. My father was murdered by the main branch. What? One night someone tried to kidnap Hinata-sama. Lord Hiashi rushed to the scene immediately and killed the perpetrator. And whom do you suppose that masked bandit was? It was the shinobi ruler of the land of clouds with whom we had just signed the alliance treaty. That's messed up. Tell me about it. It became clear that they had been after the secret of the Byakugan from the very beginning. However, even though their own ninja got himself caught and killed in their failed plot, the Land of Clouds claimed Konoha had breached the contract and began making unreasonable demands. Of course, things fell apart between Konoha and Cloud, the war nearly resumed, but eager to avoid battle an agreement was reached. Konoha made a backroom bargain with Cloud. Bargain. Cloud demanded the corpse of Lord Hiashi, head of the Hyuga main branch and carrier of the Byakugan, the bloodline trait of his clan. And Konoha accepted that condition. War was safely averted, thanks to my father who was sacrificed to protect the main branch. He was murdered to serve as Hiashi Hyuga's body double. The only way to escape this abominable curse mark is to die. Even though they were identical twins with practically equivalent strength, the difference between being born first and being born second sealed each of their fates forever. That explains a lot. When he sees Hinata, he doesn't really see her, all he sees are the people who took his father away from him. Thought Naruto. And so in this match too, the moment I was selected as your opponent, your fate was sealed as well. Okay, now he's pushing it. Your fate is to lose to me. That's a fact. I don't really think that's up to you. I can't even imagine how much pain you felt when your father was killed, but I think you're wrong to conclude that everyone's destinies are predetermined. Neji retied his hayate to his forehead. You're hopeless. You wish. I refuse to be defeated by a coward like you. I won't lose to someone who believes in resigning himself to fate. Now Neji was mad. What a joke. Stop trying to lecture me as if you know anything. How could you understand anything about my fate, about bearing an indelible, inescapable curse? Naruto's expression softened. I know better than you think. But he quickly steeled himself. But the difference is I fight with every fiber of my being. Here, let me show you what I'm talking about. Naruto threw a flurry of kunais into air with smoke pellets attached. They exploded, causing the entire field to be covered in smoke clouds. Some of the audience complained about how they couldn't see the fighters anymore. You think this'll help you? He activated his bloodline. You can't hide from me as long as I have these eyes. Good. Because I want you to see this. Naruto transformed into his hybrid form and Neji took several steps back. What are you? Somebody who is greatly misunderstood. Remember Neji, as bad as things may be for you, there is always somebody else who's had it worse. Naruto sped towards Neji faster than he could have anticipated and slashed him in his side. Neji stumbled backwards only to have Naruto kick him in his chin, sending him hurtling upwards. Neji almost sailed out of the smoke screen only to have Naruto grab him by the ankle. Did I say you could leave? Naruto yanked him back down and slammed him onto the ground. Despite the pain, Neji forced himself to get back up. Naruto was ready to make another slash on Neji, but he saw it coming this time and delivered a chakra palm to Naruto's chest. This made Naruto take only a single step back. Angered, Naruto bit into Neji's shoulder, causing him to cry out in pain. Letting go, Naruto kicked Neji in his stomach, sending him flying into the arena wall. Neji coughed up some blood and pried himself out of the wall. Damn, the smoke is starting to clear. Neji could see that Naruto had changed back into his human form. Neji charged towards Naruto despite his body's constant protests. Gentle fist. 8 trigrams 64 palms. Crap. Naruto couldn't believe he let Neji get that close without realizing it. Now he was paying for it big time. 2 palms, 4 palms, 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms, 64 palms. Naruto crashed to the ground, grunting in pain. His entire body seemed content to just lay there on the ground, but Naruto wouldn't hear any of that. Neji seemed to scoff at Naruto's attempt to get up. All of your tenketsu points have been closed off. There isn't even a point in trying to get up. Just shut up, will you? Can I ask you something? Why do you keep trying so hard to defy your destiny? Asked Neji. Because you called me a failure. Naruto's pupils became vertical as he entered his prestige. He's an Inazaka, shouted an audience member. I'm not an Inazaka, shouted back Naruto. However, What Neji saw through his Byakugan truly amazed him. All of the Tenketsu points I just closed have just popped open. I think you were better off as that giant wolf thing. Still a little fuzzy about that, but point is you can't beat me like that. Neji sprinted towards Naruto and aimed 2 fingers to close another Tenketsu point. However, just as he came within range, Naruto grabbed his fingers and bent them back at an unnatural angle, which was quickly followed by Naruto elbowing him in the gut. My reflexes, they're almost automatic. Hello advantage. Naruto leapt into the air and threw 3 shuriken. Neji did a quick kaiden, making the shurikens bounce off harmlessly. Neji snatched them out of the air and threw them at the wall Naruto was clinging to. Naruto leapt off the wall and threw a kunai at Neji, only to him cancel it out with a projectile kunai of his own. The kunais clanged in mid-air, only to have Naruto and Neji grab him to try to slash each other. Clang. They landed and glared at each other, still holding their kunais. You like close combat, don'tcha? Asked Naruto. Naruto and Neji raced towards each other. Both kunais sped towards each other with their chakra right behind them. Look, I may not understand the tragic destiny of the Hyuga clan or whatever, but if you think it's inescapable, fine. Then stop fighting it already. The 2 chakras clashed, pushing against each other. When I become Hokage, I'll change the Hyuga clan. A huge explosion covered the entire field. When the dust settled, it revealed 2 large holes, one with Neji and another with Naruto. Neji climbed out of his hole coughing. He looked over to Naruto's hole and gave a sigh of relief at what he saw. Sorry, failure. It's too bad, but this is reality. Crack. Crack. What's that noise? Naruto shot out of the ground, delivering a killer uppercut to Neji's chin. The Naruto in the hole disappeared in a puff of smoke, revealing a dug hole. Neji glared at Naruto. When had he had the time for that? In the middle of all of that, you managed to create a kage bushin. Your signature move, that was careless of me. It took Naruto a moment to catch his breath. Werewolves were not meant to burrow. He hated being an underground, just give him a wide open forest any day. Not to mention the fact that his fingers were all bloody now from digging the hole. I failed the Academy Genin exams 3 friggin' times, because unlucky for me, the exam always tested the same ninjutsu, my absolute weakest ninjutsu. Do you know what that ninjutsu was? A simple bushin jutsu. Can you believe that? Neji was speechless. How could somebody who was so good with kage bushins but suck at a regular everyday bushin? So shut up about destiny and inescapable fate. You shouldn't whine about such trivial stuff. Because unlike me, you're not a failure. Naruto was about to turn around when he remembered something. He knelt down to Neji and whispered to him, "Oh, and if you ever tell anyone about my werewolf-like transformation, you'll get 10 times what you got today." Neji nodded in agreement. What Naruto said next was a little bit louder. So get that flagpole out of your ass and treat hard-working people with a little more respect. And if you ever hurt Hinata like that again, I'll rip out your arm and shove down your throat. That's chapter. Took me long enough, huh? I even managed to work in the hybrid form that people kept asking for. I have to thank the one author who suggested smoke bombs, or whatever it was. You inspired me, you know who you are. And here's an omake for the kin fans. Omake. Naruto and Neji glared at each other until they heard something. They looked towards the audience and saw that one of the members was standing up in a orange cheerleader outfit. Who is that? Asked Neji. Go Naruto. Go, shouted the cheerleader. Naruto squinted his eyes at her. Kin. I thought she was supposed to be back at the house. Rika sakim fi, kick him ni. Rike rakim Rick, kick him in the. Kin paused when she saw some of the kids looking up at her. Other knee. Naruto's sweat dropped as he saw some of the officials chasing after her to try and get her settled down. This is so embarrassing, said Naruto.